Of course, on the Leadership Forum, we talk about speeches, we hear your speeches, what you have to present, and this is what you'll be doing all over the country, giving your stamp speeches as well. So we have rules of engagement. I have my bell with me and some two cards here, yellow, and today we have a blue, right? So this is just to make sure that we keep time, right? The red one is just to warn you, yeah, you're actually, you're done with your time, or you're almost actually done with your time. And the blue one is just to tell you that along the way, halfway along the way, I'm going to raise it to just tell you you should be also be winding up, so you're halfway to your speeches. You have 5 minutes.
Yeah. I love the fact that you're holding a red card. That's my party symbol. That's my symbol.
It's your symbol.
The red card with the fist, yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, so the bell is just to toll it when you go overboard. Right, okay. You have 5 minutes. You have the lectern there. Remember, also you have your mic on you. So when you go to the lectern, just remove your mic, put it at the back seat, at the back of your seat, then walk to the podium, and you have your camera, which is camera one. Just face it, talk to Kenyans. We'll give you this opportunity.
How much time is that, you said?
5 minutes.
Good.
5 minutes.
Of what we want to give Kenya.
Yeah, of what you want to give Kenyans. So right now, we'll begin with Pete Ondeng. Pete Ondeng will walk to the podium to tell us why he's actually on this race and why he actually has dropped on this race, and what really informed him, as we've heard from him, that yes, maybe challenges, or maybe he realized something along the way that he had to pull out of a race. So why did he pull out of a race? So Pete will have his profile in a moment. He's an economic development expert, also is a business strategist and author. He's a writer, he's a speaker and thought leader on entrepreneurship and business development. Right, so we're going to listen to Pete in a moment. And of course, Pete, your mic is over there, just switch it on. Right, and we have 5 minutes beginning now.
Thank you and good morning, Kenyans. It's good to be back on the Leadership Forum. It's been a bit away for some time. And we're talking today about something that really touches on the future of this country. We're talking about leadership. And as has already been said, I was, I'm saying was past tense, one of the presidential candidates who declared and offered myself for leadership of this country. I want to underscore something that I've said over and over, that I did not make this decision casually. I took it very seriously. It's something that I reflected on, prayed about, talked to different people. In the end, when I made the decision to come in, it was not about me. I realized that this country is bigger than all of us. And I stepped into the race at a time when I think we had something like 4 people who had declared themselves as presidential candidates. Since then, as you well know, we have had a mushrooming of independence coming out of the nominations that took place in the country, with something like, I'm hearing 4,000 independent candidates looking for various seats and up to 18 people looking for the presidency. Now, I will in a minute explain what it is that led me to step down, but I want to step back a little bit and talk about this country and what made me step in. Let me tell you a little story. Some time ago, I had the opportunity to visit a friend in Kibera. This is a friend of mine who is running a project that is dealing with early childhood education. I had been invited to this in order to help her raise some money for the project that she was running. As part of that visit, she asked me if I would go on home visits with her. So home visits meaning the homes of the children who are in this school, just to visit some of the parents and see the conditions that they were living in, so that I can get a better context of the kind of needs that these people have and so on. This was not my first time to Kibera. I've been there numerous times. I've been to the slums that we have around the city and different parts of the country many times. But on this particular day, my mind was really disturbed. Because as I walked around, I asked myself, why do we live side by side with this? And as I look at the people, the children playing in the mud and people living in houses that could hardly be called houses, I noticed that so many of them seemed to accept that this was the norm. You know, when you live in a situation that has become, you become accustomed to, you stop striving for something better because you believe this is it. And this began to disturb me. And we came to one particular house to visit one home of one of the children who was in this school. And as we walked in, this woman was sitting there on the bed and visibly crippled. This woman, you could see her physical condition. She's sitting there, could not walk. But I'm seeing children running around all over this house, in and out of the place. And so I was curious, and I really wanted to ask some questions. I wanted to know how to ask politely, but finally I came to myself and I said, "Excuse me, are these all your children?" There's 6 or 7 children running around. She goes, "Yes." And so I asked a question that was a bit more difficult. I said, "Do you have a husband?" And she said to me, "Yes." I said, "Where is your husband?" Her husband was somewhere in Kitale. He comes from time to time. He sends her money. And the picture that I finally grasped was this man comes here to Kibera once in a while, makes this woman pregnant, and goes off to live his life. In my mind, what I saw was something very ugly. That here was a woman, the very person who's supposed to be caring for her, loving her, taking care of her, was actually, and let me use the word, was actually raping her. Raping her and then leaving her to fend for herself and still consider herself the wife of the man. Why I bring this up is this is the picture that I begin to get as I consider what's going on in our country. I see leaders who have been entrusted, and our democracy basically is organized to be able to help us choose leaders, choose people who are supposed to take care of us, people who commit themselves to represent us, to stand for us, to look out for our interests. When they turn around and start abusing us, they start raping us, as it were, and we sit there and consider this normal because we don't know anything else. We clap for them. We cheer for them. When they come back and ask for more votes, we give them more votes. Something is wrong with our society. And I want to say that we are a sick society that needs healing. We need healing in so many ways. Emotionally, we have been hurt mentally, we've been hurt spiritually. And we are at a place where we cannot go on with what we have and expect that somehow things are going to change. Something drastic has to change. And what we're seeing happening in our country this year, especially with the upheavals that I'm seeing in the election, in the electoral process, Kenyans are finally waking up. There is a rebellion, if you will, a rebellion of people saying enough is enough. That is the reason that led me to consider getting into this race. I got into the race, offered myself, and during this time, as the numbers grew and multiplied of people chasing votes, I decided, and my time is up, I decided that it would be better for us if we could find a way to coalesce around an individual or a small team that would be able to carry us across this bridge that we need to go. And that's my story. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about it in the panel. Thank you very much.
A big clap for Peter Ondeng. Thank you, Peter Ondeng. He says we are a sick society that needs healing. Are we a sick society that needs healing? And of course, we shall be drilling deeper on some of the sentiments he's raised there on the podium. Right now, we will go to Nazlin, Umar, Fazaldin, Rajput, to tell us more about her ambition. Just remember to remove your mic before you walk to the podium. You're tethered there, Nazlin. Thank you. And she is popularly known as Iron Lady and Mama Kenya and Wanjiku, right, meaning commoner. Nazlin is an internationally renowned women's rights, peace, gender, HIV, AIDS, human rights, culture, political affairs and leadership, women in leadership and governance, and good governance advisor. Her mission takes her across the world, representing the global female population, the global oppressed, needy and downtrodden people. And also she is the chair of the National Muslim Council of Kenya and also president of the caucus for independent candidates of Kenya. Nazlin, you have 5 minutes, right? Beginning now, tell us.
Kenya. I'm honored to be here. First of all, I think when I look at the opposition that is known as a two-horse race, I believe that is not qualified to take the leadership once again. We are seeing a situation where we are so used to corruption, we are so used to electing leaders who have looted us, who have stolen from our coffers, who have failed in leadership and demarcated our nation on racist and tribalist lines, that and they are holding dominion to tribal villages, and I think it's time we rose above that. If I look at the government and its failure in corruption, the president has declared he's unable to fight it. And we look at the same opposition on the other side and seeing that they have been there. Raila Odinga was the prime minister. And the rest, if we look at Kalonzo Musyoka was a vice president, and we look at Mudavadi was also vice president. They've been there forever in some form of position or the other. It's like they inherited these positions. And we need to move away from the issue of dynasty. These two dynasties that we have to just flip the coin and the other one comes back, and flip the coin again and the other one comes back. They have offered nothing to Kenya. Whenever any of them have been in leadership, including the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta and deputized by his vice president, his deputy, what have they done? They've just benefited their own families and themselves. The nation has not benefited from any of them. So for my issue, it's time for the power to be taken back to the people of Kenya. Unfortunately for us, I feel that we have not yet gained independence. Kenyans have not yet gained independence. Unfortunately, as we took independence from foreigners, colonialists, we gave it away. The local colonialists grabbed power from the foreigners only to enforce themselves upon Kenyans. And what have I got to say? Of course, I'm going to fight corruption left, right, and center as soon as I am inaugurated as the servant president of the people of Kenya. The Kenyans would have won, because for the first time in Kenya since independence, Kenyans will have power back of leadership. I will be a servant. Within the first 2 weeks, as soon as I'm declared president, I am going to offer a 2-week amnesty period for anyone who has ever stolen for the last 10 years from Kenyans. And I would want them, meanwhile, my state officers and public officers will move to seize all their properties and freeze all their bank accounts, both local and abroad, including that of their families, as well as I instruct, again, my public officers, which is the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the Office of the Director of CID, the IG, the EACC, to institute criminal charges and have them arraigned in court within those, as soon as the 14 days lapse. And if they'd fail to do that, I want their resignations on my table. I do not believe there's an independent office in Kenya, as the president keeps on hiding behind, that he cannot enter there and rummage through and fire people. No, 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 no. Independence from false instructions, illicit instructions to do wrong things for the government. But I believe the Constitution, Chapter 6, is very clear on leadership and integrity, Article 10 on national values and principles of governance, and are sufficient, including being given the powers of the instruments of power are sufficient for a president to go into an office and drag somebody out even by the collar and throw them out. What we need in terms of corruption is the main issue. For any candidate who's worthy needs to know the main agenda is to fight corruption. And then there are major kinds of corruptions. There are many kinds of corruptions. There's the one of direct looting. There's the other one, like for example, every time the president or his deputy travel out of Kenya, are you aware that 50 million shillings of taxpayers is spent? Are you aware that about 500 million shillings per annum is required for them to give gifts to others? This, and then of course we have the wage, I've seen my blue card, so I want to wind up quickly. We see also that there's a top heavy wage bill that is burdening Kenya. 70% of the taxes are going into wages, and not less than 30% is going into development projects. So what has happened is that the past government, and this government especially since it's come under a new constitution order, has failed to create a national policy. So as soon as I'm inaugurated as the president, I'm going to start a national hearing, going to the ground, listening to the people. Exactly, this is a region. We know what lacks in this place, what needs to be done, but I want it to be people-owned process. So I want the leaders to tell me what they want. What are the 10 or 6 major areas of address that they want implemented in priority level? So that is going to form the national policy, and I'm going to I'm going to create about 10 groupings nationally where all these counties are going to fall under, and we are going to have local stakeholders and leaders to become oversight seers on that and give direction to my nation. Other than that, I would say that I will assure Kenyans that as president, I'm going to go on a 1 meal a day as president until I can make sure that every Kenyan has at least one decent meal on their table before they go to bed. And with that, I would like to say that it's time. The difference between me and any other candidate is that the rest who you've seen in power and who want to take power have stolen and looted from you to enrich themselves, whereas I have taken my own and enriched the nation. My development track record is well known globally, and it's time. I think my commitment to you is well known. My development track record cannot be, no one else, none of these candidates can hold a candle to that, and I'm saying it's time for a new Kenya. It's time to take Kenya to the promised land. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nazlin, Umar. A presidential candidate, and of course, she's saying, silent points that we're raising from there, we need to move on from this political dynasty that we have in this country. She will be a servant leader. Also, she will tighten the tax regime in this country. Also, one of the things that she's going to do also is just to take a straw poll through the national hearing that she will do when she becomes the president. You have 5 minutes beginning now.
Good morning, fellow Kenyans and fellow panelists. I have gone through most parts of this nation, and during my travels, a lot of things stood out, and top on my list, and the most important thing was the sacrifices and the pains that I saw my fellow countrymen go through. I saw the pain and the sacrifice that the farmer has to make in order to feed and put his children through school, without knowing whether after having made this sacrifice, these children will be able to get a job thereafter. I have seen the pain of a mother who crosses through villages on our dusty roads in rural Kenya, trying to get her sick child to a dispensary, only to get there and be turned away because she cannot afford the fee to access the medical care that the child needs at that particular point. I have seen the frustrations that most young men who graduate from our colleges and universities have to go through as they tarmac trying to get that ever elusive job. Some of them do get the job and others don't. And even when they get it, the pay is not sufficient to enable them to be able to live a decent life. I have sat back over time and I have seen the governments that we have elected take Kenyans for granted. Now, I'm not alone in these observations. I'm not alone in noting that Kenya has gotten to a point where if we continue doing the things like we've been doing, this country will soon come to a halt. Well, it's been joked around that you know you're in Kenya if you pay more for a liter of milk than you pay for a liter of petrol. Some people have said that you know you're in Kenya if you have to pay school fees for your government going school primary children, and yet the government reiterates unequivocally every day that it offers free primary education. You know you're in Kenya when you have to give to the police and other government officials more money than a gangster would take from you in the case of a robbery when you're seeking to get an essential service. Now, most people take these as things that are normal, things that are ordinary, because they feel there's nothing they can do. But my challenge to you, Kenyans, is that we cannot continue like this. We must challenge status quo and claim back our country. We need to create jobs. We need to create wealth. We need to ensure that our economy is big enough so that it has a big enough slice for every Kenyan so that we are comfortable that whatever effort we put, as long as it's decent and we're willing to go the extra mile, we'll get a reward for that effort. If you elect me as president, I will ensure that the young people and anyone who is ready and qualified to do a job will have an opportunity to earn a decent living. I will ensure that we run our program so that we create a conducive business environment so that businesses can thrive and new businesses will have an opportunity in the market. When you give me an opportunity to serve you as president, I will fight graft because this is the one thing that has ensured that our economy has never taken off. Corruption has ensured that we are giving to the next generation a very bad inheritance, that as Kenyans, for you to even do your job, you need to be given a pat on the back. And we are getting bolder each day, and we are even demanding to be paid that as if it's our right. We must fight corruption, and I will ensure that given the opportunity to serve you, I will deliver that. Kenya needs jobs. That will be my priority. I will repeat it again, that we will not rest until we have cut down the rate of unemployment to a level that is below 20%. My government will ensure that there are sufficient programs that engage the youth so that immediately they transcend from school, they have something to do. And even when that's not possible, we will try to engage them in a constructive manner that is productive so that we can boost our agricultural production, we can boost the way we do things, and we can invite everyone to give us the new ideas that will provide the platform for this nation to take the next leap. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. This is a big hand for Muthiora Kariara. And of course, we've had his sentiment and why he wants to become the president of his country, and of course to just also bolster the living standards of the young people, decent living, he says, for the young people, and also creating business, conducive business environment, and a lot of other issues that we'll be discussing here as well. Up next, we'll be hearing from Professor Michael Wainaina, and he will walk to the podium to also give us some of his sentiments about Kenya and why he really wants to run for this presidential seat. Of course, he has 23 years in the university career, 12 of which as a student, 11 as a faculty member, with 5 of those as a senior member of management staff, and chairman also of the literature department, associate dean of graduate school, member, he says, member of the graduate school board, member of dean's committee, and 5 years experience in university senate. He has also been largely involved in life coaching and also on media as well. And also this life coaching is free of charge. We'll hear from him why he wants to become the president of Kenya. Michael, you have 5 minutes, beginning now.
Good morning, Kenya. Professor Michael Wainaina is my name, and I am running for President of the Republic of Kenya. The main reason why I'm running for president is to inspire and invest in the next generation of young men and women who will modernize this country. Is it possible for us as a generation to leapfrog this country from a primitive third world country into a first world country in less than a generation? It is possible. But for us to do that, we would have to invest and inspire a new generation of young men and women who will modernize this country. The last 54 years and the political class that we have failed to modernize this country. And it is not because they have tried. I don't think they have. But more importantly, the place of the youth in modernizing this country has never been a big issue with the political class. We live in a country, dear Kenyans, where the political class looks at youth as a problem to be solved. I have said consistently that youth is not a problem to be solved. Youth is a resource to be developed. I will remind you what Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the former president of Tanzania, once said, because he understood the role of youth in developing a nation. He said, dhamana ya taifa ni kuwa na vijana wenye malezi bora, siha njema na bongo kali. Dhamana ya taifa ni kuwa na vijana wenye malezi bora, siha njema, na bongo kali. And until we appreciate that our youth are the biggest resource we have towards modernization, we will not modernize. And therefore, I am running for president to inspire and to invest in the next generation of young men and women who will modernize this country. It is not that the political class has not tried to do things with the youth, but remember, the things that they do with the youth are about solving problems. So what happened during the coalition government? They gave something called Kazi kwa Vijana to young people. The idea was not to develop youth as a resource. It was to solve a problem of unemployment. What happened to that money? They stole it. In the current Jubilee government, they also had a small program called NYS. Again, it was not about developing youth as a resource. It was about solving them as a problem. So what did they do? They threw money at them. And then what happened to the money? They stole the money. And for us to be able to modernize this country, we must appreciate that the biggest resource that we have to do that is not the railway, it is not roads, those ones are good, it is not ports, those ones are good, it is not the things that we are being told that will be done, it is to invest in the youth. So what we have in what we are calling the Youthify and Modernize campaign is a program of investing in youth development and support infrastructure countrywide. In this country, when you leave school as a young person, you're on your own. Countries that have developed know that you have to establish a youth development and support infrastructure to develop your biggest resource, which is the youth. And that is what the Youthify and Modernize campaign is going to do. We are going to build youth development and support centers in every constituency. We are going to increase the representation of youth and women in all legislations to 50%. So in Parliament, we want 50% of young people. We want 50% of women. And we have proposed constitutional amendments that will allow 50% representation of youth, 50% representation of women, and 50% representation of men. We have a manifesto that explains to you what the Youthify and Modernize government is going to do. I would urge you to go to our website, youthifyandmodernizekenya.com. Youthifyandmodernizekenya.com. We need you to also volunteer for this campaign. And if you want to volunteer for this campaign, please go to youthifyandmodernizekenya.com and volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Professor Michael Wainaina there. Very sorry there for that mishap. And of course, we're also going to drill deeper on this issue of the presidency and the manifesto, which party they are running under. Of course, some of them are independents as well. And the ticklish issue about the law also will feature prominently in our discussion this morning. You can weigh in also. You can call us. Hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook. And 20505, also our SMS portal. Right, also joining us this morning is Mohammed Abduba Dida. And of course, he is not any stranger to you. He was one of the presidential candidates in the year 2013 on the Alliance for Real Change Party. Also, he previously taught English literature and religion at Lelana School and the Dab Secondary School at the refugee camp. And he garnered 52,848 votes, representing 0.43% of the popular vote then. Mohammed Abduba Dida also was appointed as a chairman of the Constituency Development Fund, which was later revoked by the President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration due to angry reaction of the MP, stating that under the CDF Act 2030, only the Cabinet Secretary for the matters dealing with CDF has powers to appoint. Right, we shall move on right now. Abduba Dida, you've got 5 minutes, beginning now.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks to the Almighty Creator who has given us the opportunity to think, look around and see what is wrong and how the wrongs can be improved. In the 1950s, my father was jailed by the Mzungu, and he left the village, sent by his parents to go and sell few goats and buy unga. When he came to town, he was asked documents that actually saw him move from the village to the town. And he was illiterate. He was just looking after animals. He couldn't understand what was happening. They jailed him, and they took him to a court in Isiolo town. And the judge concluded and judged that he will serve the government. They moved him from Isiolo to Kiganjo, police training. And he was a policeman. Today we are carrying money wanting to bribe. I want to be employed, a prison officer, a police officer. Those times, the ordinary Kenyans didn't know about what the government is doing and who the government is. We were born in police stations, 3 daughters and 6 sons, a HR manager, an accountant, 2 high school teachers, a lawyer, and businessmen. Since I was born, and since I started seeing and started thinking, I've realized things are not right. They came and scrambled for Africa. They scrambled for Kenya. Our parents didn't know what was happening. They were enzlaved. Their land has gone. And then people thinking, we are not the pioneers of actually thoughts. People have started thinking. They fought the Mzungu. They went, and so many died, the Mau Mau. After that, things did not work well. We had the multi-party, and so many people died, and others lost their parts of their body. All that in the effort of trying to improve this country, in trying to say that we are reasoning and things are not right, and you cannot shut us down. It continued. 2013, you realized and you witnessed, I placed down the chalk, I left class, and I said, no, enough is enough. You may ask yourself, why the influx of presidential candidates? Maybe instead of supporting a teacher who moved and actually went beyond odds, they maybe say we are better than the teacher, and so many of them have come, which is good, but there is a problem. It's an indication that there is a problem. What is the problem? Since independence, if you compare, if you look back and you say, education is better today than, ask yourself this question, education is better today than 5 years or 60 years ago. Economy, I'm comfortable to go and buy without any problem. I'm not stressed. Security, I'm more secure today. I have clean water today. Yeah, I'm proud of my country. When I went abroad and I have meetings, everybody will introduce where he comes from. When they mention I'm from Kenya, people laugh, and they mention the country of Kitu Kidogo. This must change. If the answers are, I don't have security, my life is at stake, I don't have clean water, education is actually not accessible, and all this, then we need change. We need to change the guard, and we need change. I want to request Kenyans, one, you dependent on your tribe, you dependent on your monies, you dependent on people with money. This time depend on God. Ask God. Never belittle a person when there is an outbreak of fire. All of us and everybody will rush to put off the fire, as much as others will come to steal. But I'm just suggesting, what I'm suggesting is, never undermine a Kenyan who wants to sacrifice and has sacrificed his or her time to save this country. Never be blinded by your tribe. Never be blinded by money. Give opportunities to all. Listen to them. Those who are moving with money, the incumbent president and those who call themselves the opposition, are nothing but failures. They failed. Their parents failed us, and they failed. Personally, I'm from Northeastern. My father, despite being a policeman, when he goes for holiday, they call him shifter. We were called shifter by President Uhuru's father and the government. Today, President Uhuru and his government calls me a terrorist. When they see my beards, these beards are biological. Prophet Awar, we call him Prophet Awar, has beards. Why are you not shocked by Prophet Awar Rasta beards, and you're shocked by mine? Why am I called terrorist? Why was my father called shifter? Is that what the Constitution teaches? There is a problem, and we must stop it. Please give opportunities and listen to all. Whether young or old, they have qualified and they have crossed all the bounds. Salaam alaikum.
Thank you very much, Abduba Dida. And of course, we shall be now discussing this and a raft of other issues with our panelists. We've heard from them. Now it's time to, you can call and ask questions or share your contributions as well. And you can hit us on Twitter. Just to read one or few remarks that we can see on Twitter as well. And we have, let me try and mount them for you so that you can see. We have Kevin Osodo saying, until we define exactly what the presidency means to us, we'll continue in this circus. Also, Africa Alive Kenya says, young people are the best agents of change. Investing in youth is the smartest thing to do. Also, we have Nimo Fula. She's saying that the lady presidential candidate seemed to be the male alpha, hypothetically. More outspoken and confident compared to the males this morning. Also, we have Daniel Mercy saying the sudden interest for presidential seat is as a result of what the country is going through, lack of visionary leader, corruption, etc., etc. Also, we have Nchembe saying, yes, indeed, we are sick. We are a sick society. We need divine intervention. Leaders should narrow the gap between what they say and what they do. And also, we can get another one from Africa Alive Kenya. A society that doesn't believe in women's leadership is bound to fail. Women are the best leaders, they say.
I agree.
Right. Okay, let's drill deeper, and we begin with you, Pete Ondeng. You said we're a sick society that needs healing. The sentiments is being had also from Abduba Dida. We have the issue of youth that you want also to make sure that they're resourceful, that we mine the wealth that is, in the minds of youth, that we deem to say that they are a problem.
Yes.
There are niggling worry around us.
Yes.
Can we just discuss a raft of these issues and also the challenges of the law as well? Let's begin with Pete. We're a sick society. Why are we a sick society?
Debarl, I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think you need to look far to see that we are a country that has lost touch with itself. That we have, for reasons of history and the reasons that have been elaborated here by these people, that we are a country that has a ball of potential, but living in squalor and living in a cage, oppressed, or living in a way that we're unable to express and realize who we are, because we have allowed ourselves to live under structures and systems and a leadership process that is actually working against us. Let me just be very specific, because we don't have a lot of time. If you're sick, you need to find the right solution. We have been repeating the right diagnosis over and over in this country, which has not been solving our problems, whether it's economic and social. And in 2017, once again, our country is being reorganized into tribal cocoons, two big horses, as they're being called, to come and somehow fight and collide, and that is supposed to be the solution to this country's problems. What is happening in Kenya today is a rebellion. It is actually an upheaval that could be a revolution. People are saying, no more of this. I entered this race because I saw that this NASA Jubilee two-horse narrative was not working. And I was looking for a way to offer myself as a third voice into this story. Since then, with so many people coming into this race, I've made a political decision. My political decision was, we need to coalesce. We cannot have 18 voices out there saying, I want to be the voice of reason, or the third voice. And because this race, for me, was never about me, it was about Kenya, it was about a bigger thing. I stepped back and asked myself, who do I think would be somebody who could carry this flag with experience, the ability to straddle the country in terms of ethnic affiliations and so on. And so I decided to cast my endorsement to Joe Nyaga, who I'm now working with as a senior advisor to his campaign.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you say we have a rebellious country right now, you know, maybe to the political establishment. But where are we sensing this rebellion? Because when it comes to to turning out those particular numbers to votes, they don't really come out to vote. You know, there's a vote apathy. So where is the rebellion? Is it on social media? Right?
Yeah.
Let's say from Nazlin, we'll come to
Yes, there's a definite rebellion. Let me give you what we've just seen in the primaries of the parties. Until, if you look at Jubilee, there was such a mayhem, there was such rigging, there was such impurity that even Bernie, someone would just walk in and burn the ballot because they're not happy, that Jubilee had to recall the entire process. If you look at NASA or CORD, rather, actually, if you look at ODM, more or less, they're the ones who held the primary, the rest of the parties did not. Luo Nyanza rebelled against the Odinga dynasty. Luo Nyanza rebelled against Raila. They actually rebelled. The local people rebelled. So there's no pocket of tribalism. They actually threatened Raila. If you impose on us people that the way you have, we will vote for your nemesis. And if you do continue doing ABCD, he actually, the majority of independents hail from Luo Nyanza. If a larger majority. So really that tells you Kenyans are not tribalists, but unfortunately these demagogues and tin gods of tribalism and corruption and nepotism have imposed a falsified perception through media and other forums to show that, oh, these Kenyans are tribalists. Raila Odinga hold the Luo bloc vote. I Uhuru Kenyatta hold the Kikuyu vote. I Ruto hold the Kalenjin vote. It's all hogwash and rubbish. That's absolute nonsense. If you look at about 1,800 imams having signed forms endorsing me to run for president. Except for 2 mosques, every mosque in Luo Nyanza, all the way to Bondo and Siaya have endorsed me. If you look at being the president of the caucus of independent candidates of Kenya, we are 2,000 members strong. And we're not just saying this, we actually, when we moved to court against IBC, the second petitioners, next year number 1 is all the list of members that we have, registered members. These are MCAs, MPs, aspirants from senator, governor, women rep, everything who are actually endorsing me. And they're coming from all the strongholds of all these people. So this is the biggest revolution Kenya has seen since independence, since the Mau Mau rebellion. I call it the people's revolution. People have revolted against parties and actually said, we want total change.
Prof, let's hear from you. People have revolted. Do you think they have revolted?
I think, and I've always said that Debarl, revolutions start in the hearts of the people. And the hearts of the people in this country want change. I do not get as worked up by the failures of the Jubilee government as many people do, because right from the beginning in 2013, I didn't have a lot of expectations on the Jubilee government. So for me, they have met my expectations. It would have been ridiculous for me to expect anything from ICC suspects who are running away from justice at the ICC and were seeking the presidency in order to defeat justice at the ICC. So to now expect that these were the people who are supposed to modernize this country or to do anything significant in this country is to expect too much out of nothing. So I am very, where I am at in terms of the failures of the political class, it was to be expected. Anybody who is a keen observer should never have expected that NASA and Jubilee are going to do anything different. What my concern is, Debarl, is where do we move from here? Because it's been the same 54 years of failure, same 54 years of betrayal, same 54 years of what they are describing as a sick society. How do we redefine Debarl our next 54 years? The only way of doing that, and this Debarl is true whether I was running for president or not. The only way of doing that is to inspire and invest in a new generation of young men and women who will modernize this country. And that is why I'm running for president, so that we can lay the foundation for a new generation to come in with new ideas to modernize this country. Debarl, societies do not change because the old guard gets a conversion. So societies, Kenya will not change because Jubilee and NASA will get a conversion. Societies change because a new, younger generation comes up with new ideas and pushes out the old ideas and institutes new ones. So for us to make progress, we have no option, Debarl, than to inspire and to invest in a new generation, and that is why I'm running for president.
So a whole paradigm shift, and of course this, as you say, the dynasty is a Gordian knot that needs to be broken. You agree with what also Prof is saying, and Nazlin and other panelists as well?
Absolutely.
Muthiora?
And I'll drive the point home by giving a few examples.
Yes.
In Kenya, politicians are willing to commit any sin for political relevance. And we have seen the people rebel against that. They continually tell us that Kenya is a tribal nation, that tribe drives how we elect our leaders. But then during the just concluded nominations, we've had cases where people who were not born or their names do not resonate with the community in which they live were elected to office. For instance, we had someone, a Luo, who was elected in Tarbo, which is in the middle of the Kalenjin community. In Kiambu, we have another person who is not from the Kikuyu community who was elected to represent the people from that area. So the statistics are coming in that the voter is not the same person that he was before. People are more enlightened. People want leaders who are willing and ready to provide solutions to the problems that plague Kenya. So I totally agree with what my fellow presidential aspirants have said, that the topography is not as it was before. It's changed, and there is that clamor for a better country.
Thank you. And
Kenyans are ready for that wave that's sweeping across the country.
All right, thank you. Abduba, Dida, let's hear from you, right? Let's continue and we drill deeper, because you raised a very interesting point that, you know, you pointing to the previous regime, to the current ones, that you've been labeled as terrorists. From where do you pick the sentiments? Because we've not heard from any public podium where the presidency has spoken and labeling some of the Muslim communities as terrorists. Don't you think that is a very strong verbiage to mention on air?
That is the obvious. It's very obvious that anybody with beards, anybody who claims Islam has to be thoroughly checked. And that is a long history, political and rebellion and so many things. I'm not into that. It's a fact everybody knows. But nobody is a Kenyan. I'm not a Kenyan by default. I was born in this country, and I have a responsibility to improve this country. And you mentioned, and it was discussed, that Kenyans and the people in this country are sick. Why are they sick? Why is the community sick? One, if you have no respect for your creator, you are sick. If you are in a room and can steal, and God says, if you are alone, I'm the second. If you are two, I'm the third. I created you. I've given you what nobody can give you. We were given all these organs for free. Go and see what those who have kidney failures are going through. God has given us eyes since we started seeing, and there is no day he told us, this week, I'm tired, I don't want to do anything. You actually get cells, battery for your eyes. Since we started walking, we have never fueled our legs. But if a community, if a person, if a community, if a family, if a government can show this respect for God, it's a sick government. Then, and a sick community. Then why do we have so many people, and then let's go for the voter, and then let's go for voting? Most of us, and most of Kenyans have gone non-committal. What do I benefit in this? Where will the change come from? This is just a family, a monarchy. This is a family giving it to another. There is a history that when Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was passing the baton it is a philosophy that can be investigated. He gave it to Moi, despite so many around him, President Moi, and he told him, boss, when you are tired with it, please make sure you give it to my son. And you know, it was shocking. One time Moi came from abroad, and Saitoti and all the other dignitaries were at the airport, and he looked at them and he said, my inheritor is not here. The longing serving vice president was there, So there is actually a curtail of how do we manage this country behind the table. There are communities that are saying, we got it and we will keep it for the next 100 years. It is ours. You are just wasting your time. The president was heard. I heard him campaigning, and he said, those who will elect me are the Kikuyus and the Kalenjin. That is not what a leader should do. And we are tired. Kenyans are tired. We are answerable to our God. We will soon meet God. This is the third stage of human development. The human being goes through 8 stages.
Thank you.
What I'm suggesting is, this time Kenyans should focus on God.
Thank you. All right, just give me also the high spot of your manifesto, Nazlin.
Before we get there, I would really like to answer a bit on the terrorist issue.
Yes.
I'm a direct victim.
You're a direct victim.
I've spoken excessively of my gross political persecution and oppression, unheard of in modern times. I've been arrested. In 2012, my house was raided by police against court orders of immunity. And I'll come back to those immunity. Why? Because I'm the chair of the Muslim Council. I'm extremely vocal. I've always been in opposition, fighting incumbencies and oppressions. I'm a global analyst as well, and USA Today, Global Post, Washington Times. I was in Newsweek last week as well, Global Newsweek as well last week. And I'm always hitting out at the falsehood of the terrorist agenda in Kenya, even the invasion of KDF into Somalia being an invasion because it was unlawful, it was illegal. The grounds that were set by UN as to invade a nation were not met by Kenya. I think on the oppression of Somalis, I'm the most vocal person defending the Somalis and the Muslim coastal people. We have lost over 900 youth in police custody. They are not to be found. They disappear in police custody. We found mass graves in Wajir. So I have been a target of the past regime, the coalition government, and this one. And when in 2012 March, my house was raided by police and 5 truckloads carted away and blocked me from the main entry on Garden Estate and threatened to arrest me. Everything is on video. When you go to the PPO, it tells me, and we recorded this, your presidency is intimidating us. Those are the words from Anthony Kibuchi, the former PPO. And you know, I've been through hell and back. The courts have found me innocent. The DPP, the head of CID, the police, AG come to court and concede, surrender to my applications where I've exposed cartels and persecution, threatening attempts to kill me. Car chases by parallel police, and when they admitted that liability, what happened? The court granted me immunity. So this is a reality, that Muslims are being oppressed by leadership, not the grassroots people. We have no problem with that. So, yes.
We'll be discussing this. Of course, today is just an introduction to know Kenyans, to get to know your faces, and of course, we will look into issues as well.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I've discussed corruption, so let me not go there. I've discussed food security for the people, let's not go there. Of course, I'm saying that all this money channeled, all the money saved needs to go to the grassroots.
Thank you.
Until we employ and ensure that we give economic opportunity to the grassroots, women and youth, we cannot develop as a nation.
All right, thank you. Peter Ondeng, you've endorsed you say Nyaga right now, who actually, when was it that he launched his presidency?
It was on Wednesday.
It was on Wednesday. Why did you go for Nyaga? And why not Professor Michael Wainaina? Why not Muthiora here, Nazlin, Umar, and Abduba, Dida, and of course Ekuro Court and other independents as well?
Let me begin by just saying that how much I respect my colleagues here for what they're doing. They've taken a similar step that I took myself, and they see the problems we have, and they see the same situation we have. I just want to come back to this issue of revolution. That we have had moments in this country where people have come to a moment of awareness, and we throw it away because we have everybody standing out there wanting to be the boss, everybody wanting to be, it's about, self and so on. We are in a situation where we all recognize, as Professor Wainaina also said, we can have all the strategies we want, we can have all the nice thoughts, things we want to do in the future. If we go into the 2017 elections and put back NASA or Jubilee, nothing is going to change. We're going to be back where we were, and we're going to be on the outside talking like activists, wishing that something would change. Why I chose to step down, one, I've said already, that this thing was not about me, but secondly, this emotion and this rebellion and this revolution noise must be translated into votes. In 2003, I remember Raila Odinga made the announcement, Kibaki Tosha. When people coalesced around Kibaki, we saw the country suddenly translate all that emotion into votes. It became a moment, a watershed moment for this country,
which I add that was wasted, was lost, unfortunately was thrown away. But we have an opportunity, and I chose to back Joe Nyaga, one, because of his experience and depth of experience both in corporate, diplomatic, political, and public service. Right. And I think his maturity and ability to be able to actually harness the votes that are out there into actually getting into government.
Mm-hmm. So don't you think it's actually late in the day for him to throw in the hat in the ring?
I think, Debarl, you're going to see things that happen in this country between now and election time that will blow our minds away. We've seen this happening all over the world. Changes are happening at such rapid pace. People are actually able to show that we can bring transformation. So in these 2 months, watch the narrative of people looking for the voice, looking for a new voice. And I think 2 months is in fact plenty of time for people to change their minds. And all these voices that are actually lost in despondency, coming around one person.
Thank you. Professor Wainaina, looking at your manifesto, maybe you can also mount that up for our viewers to see the priority areas over the next 5 years. You say, one, that it shall be governance and security, guarantor of our intention, also education and technology enabler of our intention, and also economy and environment driver of our intention as well, right? If you may just have that in a moment, there you go, right? Governance and security, education and technology, economy and environment. Very briefly, the high spot of this. You hear, of course, Nazlin, she's a frustrated candidate here today. Of course, the way maybe the Muslims, they've been profiled as terrorists as well. Let's just speak on that bit because we don't have time. And you tell us, how will you address this?
Debarl, there isn't a section of the population in this country, excuse me, more oppressed, more marginalized, or more disenfranchised than the youth. The people that Nazlin is talking about are the problems of the youth in Muslim populated areas. You go to any other area in this country, when you're talking about youth, the discourse on youth is either about sexual perversion, drugs, or radicalization. This is what happens, Debarl, when you have a country that treats its young people as a problem to be solved. And therefore, when we are talking about marginalization, oppression, disenfranchisement, we must remember that the greatest casualties of the last 54 years are the youth. And we must remember that the greatest opportunity for turning this country around is with the youth. And that is why I have said, if we are going to leapfrog this country from a third world country into a first world country in less than a generation, we have no option, Debarl, than to inspire and invest in a new generation of young people. And I have said that that is why I'm running for president. And one of the things that you have not shown in the manifesto that has gone up there is the youth development and support infrastructure that we are proposing for this country. You know, Debarl, human abilities like natural resources are buried deep inside somebody. So for the youth to become the drivers of modernization as we expect them to be, we have to invest in them. And we have a regime that has failed to do so for the last 54 years. And that is why some of the young people who come from the coast, who come from Northeastern, they are being called radicals. The ones who come from places which are not Muslim, they are being called thieves, robbers, vigilantes, and what have you. We cannot move this country from where it is to where it needs to be without investing in the youth. And that is what the Youthify and Modernize campaign is about. Investing in a new generation of young men and women who will modernize this country.
All right, Muthiora, I just want to know, because we're really strapped for time, will you tell us also what are the 3 elements and that you should be maybe taking them to be the high spot of your manifesto? Just 3.
I have a vision for a united, prosperous, self-confident, and corruption-free Kenya. How I would want for this to happen is to ensure that the leaders, led by me, the government that we will form, will basically apply common sense. because the problems we have are not rocket science.
So that one is corruption. Two,
we need to have that self-pride that will be driven by people having opportunities and knowing that the effort they put will not be stolen away. They will have the benefit of enjoying the fruit of their labor.
So if you encapsulate that to one word, what will it be?
A vibrant economy that yields benefits for the people and everyone in society.
3. The third one, the high spot of your manifesto.
Okay, I would like for Kenya to be a dignified nation where values are upheld and leadership and citizenry are led by the values that were left to us by our forefathers.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, values and ethics. Let's hear from Abduba Diba.
Thank you.
Your three highlights of your manifesto, because we're really stuck for time. 1, what would it be?
There are not even 3.
Minimum.
I was asked about the manifesto in many avenues, and I avoided answering that question until we are cleared. But experts presented, after research, a 54-page document they called manifesto or strategic plan. But what I have for Kenya this time,
yes,
and that I will mention
very briefly.
Yes, lifestyle. How you will manage your 24 hours. How you will manage your 24 hours. If you take care of your minutes, the hours will take care of themselves. I have a plan of a 24 hours nation.
All right, thank you.
And they divided into 888 based on science. Based on 100% science.
We'll get another opportunity to drill deeper on this. Nazlin, your highlights from your manifesto, just give me the 3 high spots that you have for this
besides
country.
the ones I've mentioned, corruption and the rest, I would say that I would heal and unite the nation first and foremost. Our nation, unfortunately, we can see there's troubled Kenya North Rift area. Where there's a lot of killings. We saw something happening in coastal area as well, so, and the northern as well. We need to heal and unite the nations. I have taken my own wealth, look for little funds, go to the grassroots, identify 5 or 10 CBOs, bring them together from different tribes and start income generating project for the youth, for the widows. That's what we need to do as a nation. I've not really
We're stuck for time. I just need the highlights because we're winding up.
Yes. So these are what we need to do in a bigger scale. So I think if our youth are earning living together to bring money home, I don't think they're going to be incited to fight for violence.
Thank you.
So we need to secure employment and income generation for our youth on the ground, more than anything.
All right, thank you very much. So I think I'll give the closing remarks to Ondeng and also Prof. Wainaina, because we've discussed your manifesto a bit. So just give us also your closing remarks. Your headline first.
Yes, I need to give the 3.
Just the 3.
Good.
One-liners, please.
Yeah. 10. There are 10 of them. I'll give you 3. Number 1, inspire and invest in the next generation of young people. Number 2, build a national youth development and support infrastructure. Number 3, make sure that there is 50% representation of women and youth in all legislatures.
Ondeng, you are supporting Nyaga. His 3 high spots in the manifesto. What are they?
Mr. Nyaga has declared the debt burden as one of the things that he has to deal with. Education is a second one that he's going to really drill down the human resource capacity building. And number 3 is agriculture. Those are top 3.
Thank you.
But I just want to tell you, and I look at the camera and tell Kenyans that if we miss this moment, we're going to actually live to regret it. We live in a moment of opportunity to change, and this is where we need to coalesce around an idea, a rallying point, and that's actually what led me to make the decision that I made. And I know some of my colleagues may not be happy that I'm plugging for somebody else, but this is really what my conviction is at this moment.
Thank you.